I'm Beth Schnellenberger from Jasper, Indiana, and my quilt is called Journey of the Painted Ladies. I was compelled to make this quilt when a friend of mine sent me a photo of a radar image of the migration of a large group of painted lady butterflies. I loved the color and the movement in the radar image and thought, that might be something I can work with. I had already finished 2 pieces in a climate change series, and since climate change affects insects also, it affects their migration patterns and their habitat, I thought this might make a good 3rd piece in that series. As for my background, I don't have any formal art training at all. I've always loved art and I've always felt like an artist wannabe, but that kind of changed when I took an independent study workshop in 2012 with Jane Dunawall. She really made me focus on what I was good at and what I liked to do. She also made me set goals and just do the work. And when I did the work, my work got better. And these days I feel a little more like an artist. It's a little bit easier for me to say I'm a fiber artist. While I'm relatively new to art quilting, I have been quilting for a long time. I actually started quilting when I was about 16, which is way longer ago than I would like to admit. And I was a really traditional quilter. I did a lot of handwork and very seldom used a sewing machine. I did not like sewing with the sewing machine. I found out later that the reason for that was because I had a really crappy sewing machine. So once I got a good sewing machine, my work changed a little bit and I was able to produce a little bit more work. I get inspiration from everything. Things like my backyard, things like political unrest and social injustice. And sometimes I'm inspired just by a color combination that I see or a line, the beauty of a line that I see. So I get inspiration from just about everywhere. Now on Journey of the Painted Ladies, I told you the inspiration came from that radar image, but I've had people ask me, how do you get from that radar image to the quilt that we see? And what I did with it was I loaded that radar image into my computer and I played with it for a really long time. I put it into all different kinds of photo apps and just played until I got an image I really liked. And from there, I printed that image out full size, the full size of the quilt. And I taped all those pages together. And from that, I made a line drawing, and that line drawing is what I used to make the quilt. Each of the pieces you see in the quilt is drawn onto paper and then cut out of fabric, each piece individually by me, by a pair of scissors. I did have to problem solve a bit along the way because I knew I wanted the quilt to be on black. I thought that would make it pop. That black background would make it pop. So the problem was that I couldn't figure out how I was going to get a detailed line drawing onto black fabric. So what I did was I drew the entire piece onto a thin piece of white fabric. And I went ahead and fused all the colored pieces onto that white fabric. While in the back of my mind, I'm thinking the whole time, I'm going to have to put this on a black background somehow. So what I did was cut the white background away with scissors from the outside edge. And then the problem was that the center pieces, the center part where you can see the black background, had to be changed from white to black. And I thought maybe I could color it with ink, maybe I could paint it. I tried that, didn't work. So then what I ended up doing was using a porcupine quill to lift up the pieces just a little bit, and the colored pieces just a little bit, and I inserted black fabric where it used to be white. So every place on the quilt, in the center of the quilt where there is black fabric, there's white underneath, and it's been covered by that black background fabric. It was a big task, really scary, thinking, I don't know if this is going to work. Thankfully, it did. I wasn't sure this piece would ever actually get finished either, because I started it in like late 2017 in hopes that it might get selected for Quilt National 2019. But in 2018, I had to quit working on it because a lot of stuff happened in my life, and I didn't get back to this quilt until late October of 2019. I really wanted it to get in Quilt National this year, and I told my husband how nervous and excited I was to try to get it in Quilt National, and he just didn't get it. So I told him that it's like the Super Bowl of quilting. And he was a big sports guy, so he understood what it meant to actually be in the Super Bowl. So I can't tell you, I'm so excited to have my quilt in the Super Bowl of quilting here at Quilt National this year. And I can now mark have a quilt in Quilt National off my bucket list.